So what's safe and effective to fair and balanced if there's a second opinion? The molecular structure of water is known, but when you mix it around, the structure can get convoluted or diluted. Or how about inside of a gas can? If you have a whole bunch of Legos and then you have gas sprayed about them and they're made up of a figure, you can paint the edges of that figure and the gas will wisp around it and it'll look more and more three-dimensional as opposed to block-like. This is with lighting inside gas, and shadows in gas are utilized kind of like what green screens are. If you wear a suit in front of a green screen and it's green, it would be invisible. That relation is an attribute that is seen by making edges of Legos not absorbent of light, by painting paint on it that doesn't absorb light, and then putting gas all about it so the reflection off the gas particles and the light on the blocks are canceling each other out, so the result is equaled in a smooth image that's a little bit distorted by gas. So how does a calibration work? It's a calculation that's specific. When you get the right answer and then the key turns, there is a wrong answer, which is it locks out. But enable to edit out hack jobs like the Terminator sticking his hand into the key socket and everything opening because he has got a hand that is calibrated to look like a key because it's liquid magnetic and can register inside of a hole. What I just described is a mode of an algorithm, and that can be achieved, but it has to be done with a certain amount of excitation. That excitation can be found inside like a fish tank or a gas can or objects submerged in water. If you're gonna do either of them, the figures that are going in have to be cast, and in order to get the perfect casting of the figures, it can be done with emotion. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could throw a horseshoe into a keyhole and have it register the same as a key would? That would have to be done with a fantastic toss. The fact of the matter, a material sense. These things are arbitrated by signals and frequencies and rendering with antennas. The antenna would be a matter. The fact that it's rendered with electricity is one and the same, depending if the signal gets there or not. Now, when in lost in translation could mean is a whole concept, because there's a hole that would allow for the signal to drop. Signals drop in holes, and that's a fact of the matter. But if calibrated correctly, you can utilize time as an arrow. An arrow shot across a hole is sure to get there if it's dialed in right. Dialing it in is a fact of the matter. When in tune with antennas, the frequency has to be right. The relation between frequency and energy is that of which energy is always conserved. It can't be lost. When in frequencies, utilizing the energy, how closely it's bound to it, is able to capitalize off that. And I'm trying to build like certain constructs whether it be Legos or origami made up of Lego. Something what a CNC machinist dream would be if it could be that much easier just to climb bottle a key or have a perfect cast resemble a metamaterial. Something as this would be as miraculous as throwing a horseshoe through a keyhole and having it register all the cuts on the key's teeth, the skeleton key, if you will. A skeleton key is a key that opens all locks that are already locked. But if you could throw one horseshoe through it and resemble a skeleton key, would that be a bad thing? Only if you were meant to throw it through. But who gets to know who has the make of the key? Of the owner, of course, the administrator. But is there a certain key that's administrative only to a certain elite limousine? And then that could be an answer for how there's spacings. In the prime numbers, for example, there's infinite many, but they make definite calculations in between them through like real numbers. And so when you couple both of them, you can get a calibrated calculation. So there's also a funny thing called like a Feynman number, 127. This number just keeps popping up inside of math problems and no one really knows why. So what if that was a splitting image of pressing a space bar and a tab bar, and no matter how many words were inside of that sentence, it always scaled them to be the same length when you copied and paste multiple sentences. As long as you click spacebar and tab, they all fit exact. It's just like those math problems where they're like, okay, pick a number in between 1 and 30, and then whatever number you pick, they ask you to do like 2 or 3 more operations, and then it just ends up with you having like an entire number that they already knew would pop out, so long that you just pick the first number in between like 1 and 30. So at what point would it be crashing? Was if you picked the number outside 30 or under 1. This in terms is what the first pieces were explained in having them work and not work as a code inside of the code to deduct the answer. I guess where in turn, if you have a Yoda figure and then you keep building them up larger and larger, this Yoda figure is going to have different, the ridges are going to be more intricate the more it's built up larger, so much to the point where it won't be noticeable if it's the size that's larger than your view. Some of this is seen as like a sunset where the sun starts going downwards and then it gets larger at the horizon. When a sun gets larger at the horizon, if there's trees that are in front of it, the trees would be out of focus until you get closer to the trees, and then it'll suddenly emerge in front of the sun. But right before they emerge, you might be able to see a phenomenon on the sun's surface with all these solar flares and gas wisping around about its surface, because the branches are polarizing it as a magnetic interaction of the polarization filter. Definite chaotic dystrophy, which can be used as like a compass if it has like an axis of spin for each of the planets, and then you're just throwing the sun about in the most random motion. Using that as a random number generator would be how you can get as accurate as the solar system will allow you.